That was so
Oh.
strange. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I was waiting for you to like be invited to like ask you to come in.
Yeah, because I
Because
clicked
normally it like
the
asks
invite
you,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, you have to like request to join or whatever, and then
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
never I never got one. That's so strange.
Yeah. Maybe it was just
Huh.
Google acting weird or some shit, but yeah.
I don't know. The signal was kind of bad, so maybe it was that. It's okay. You didn't miss much. It's all good. I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure like nobody needed like Root didn't need any help or anything like that with like
Hmm.
getting stuff done. That's pretty much all it was.
Okay. That's not bad then.
Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. I hope
Happy
you had a good
Tuesday.
weekend. It was a long weekend, not that it really makes a difference to school, but it's still nice to have that little extra uh, day in our schedule and maybe not have to get up as early as we normally do. So today we are going to continue to talk about values, and then it's going to be another fast hour. Tomorrow we're going to spend more time to talk about roots and some of the submission from last week. So thank you, everybody has submitted their details about the project plan. It gave me a good opportunity to see where everybody was in terms of understanding of the project. So there's always opportunity to do more and more communication, but there has been more communication and more documents being created to really help the teams to know where we are and what we should do at this moment in the project. And thank you for doing the heuristic evaluation as well. So there's a lot of good feedback, and I have shared all the submissions, but I have removed all of the students' names. But what I have done is on our share folder, called heuristic, so you can see everybody's submission. And what I have done, and Sumit will help you with this too, is trying to elevate myself and look at what is common and what is really what are some of the main challenges that we are facing with roots, and then trying to we're gonna map them out, some of the details with those challenges. But there are a lot of information when it comes to the existing site, so thank you. I think it was very powerful to do. All the marks have been submitted, so the marks for the project plan, the marks for heuristic, and I've put comments. If anybody has feedback or comments or things that you want to discuss after class, we can certainly will be more than happy. And we can also do that today, or you can reach out to the course message, and I'll be happy to schedule some time with you as well. So in this week, we're gonna have another busy week. So last week we talked about cultures, and now we're gonna talk about values. Let me just share with you Blackboard so that you can see what I'm referring to. But before I do that into the details, are there any questions about any logistic? Tomorrow we're gonna talk just about roots. We're gonna have some updates as well, verbal updates. But are there any questions about anything or any of housekeeping items or any of the material? Yeah, so if there are, then please raise your hand. I'll be more than happy. So this week we're going to talk about values, and last week there was some readings that I had on the values that I moved over to this week. So we are in week number 5, and then there are some core assessment that you can do about values to really trying to understand or prioritize your own values. There are many values out there, but there are a test that you can do there online. They're free for the most part. I think the ones that I have found. It is a requirement in the journal. So the journal is due to the end of the term, but if you have time to do this item, then it will be done. It will be a lot easier for you than keeping it to the end. But I give you links to some profile, and I think in the journal I actually asked you to go through one of the values. Remember, the journal, I'm keeping up to date the journal, and I'm adding items in the journal as we go through the topics to help you reflect and really think about what should be included in your journal. And when I expect something specifically about the journal, then I include it in the journal. But you can put anything else that you want. So it's not just limited to the PDF, but when I'm really interested in something like culture or values, then I will make it part of the journal. So as a reminder. Now, so these are the readings for this week. So there are not too many readings. They're really just articles for testing your values or assessing your value. The lesson slides are the same from last week because I had culture and values combined, but we have not had a chance to talk about values. And then the lamb for this week. So tomorrow it's all going to be about roots and getting an update as well. So I've recommended that Marcel and Sarah maybe touch base to see what kind of updates that we want to provide when it comes to the project. I randomly picked Marcel. Sarah is our project manager, and maybe in a week or two I'll pick someone else. But that is a good way for me to make sure that everybody is involved and everybody is aware. And if we're not aware and if we don't understand, then this is an opportunity to talk to Sarah and also or myself to see where we are and what we should be. So I think it's just a good way to make sure that everybody is up to date and keeps up to date on the project plan itself. And then I will share with you what the assignment is for this week as well in regards to roots. So I think the formula of having a specific assignment with a date and knowing how you're being evaluated, I think works well. It brings clarity to everybody, and it's a good contribution for Roots project, which we all need to be involved. And then maybe next week it'll be something else as well that we're going to do. But this week, it's competitive review and competitive features. So let me share with you what that is. We can talk more about it tomorrow as well, because I really want to make sure that we talk about values. But under assignment, there is the root competition. So please go through the instruction heuristic evaluation. So it's really going through websites, and I give you some list of websites. It's really going through the website and trying to identify what kind of features or functionality do they have that we think that actually could be relevant to Roots. And that's really it. So it's not necessarily of how they implement them, and are they well implemented, but you can go as far as you can or as far as you want. But it's not a heuristic evaluation. It's really a feature set that we're interested in, and particularly from a mobile experience and also from a non-mobile experience. So I share with you what I will be paying attention to in terms of the evaluation, and then there's a document as well that gives a list of competitor websites or other sites that are not in the retail, that are not necessarily related to Roots, but there are online sites, or there are non-retail, but I thought we could actually probably benefit from features that they have, and maybe have a discussion with Roots in terms of those features, and if they have ever considered them. So the list of competitor, you're familiar because we had a list and Roots have given us a list. So, and I also, this is a template. So when we scroll to the bottom of this page, you will see what kind of information we should be included. But what I like for each one to do is pick at least 2 of the following websites. So Gap, Adidas, Allison has already put her name, but I need everybody to pick at least 2 sites of this list, and then pick 2 of the following also websites. So they are retail, they're non-clothing. So you have to put your name. Costco, Amazon, Marshall, Winners. If there's any other sites that you think that are relevant that we could add, then we can. If you want, put your name next to it. Maybe an eyeglass website or a car dealer website. And then I give you what I'd like to see from each of those sites that you will do. So you're going to put the name of the website. You're going to put your name as well as a reminder. And then you put feature. You just put a feature that you like. And then you just list the feature that you will see. So for example, Uber, I can do delivery. I can put my cards, anything that you find that you see, you just list. And then what you like, you're going to see things that you like. You're going to see things that you don't really like about the site. But I'm very much interested in the list of features. So this will help Allison. Allison is our lead for competitive review. But I do believe that looking at features that are available is another good discovery and evaluation for us to do. So that is it. This is for this week. This is really the assignment for this week. And then I gave, I believe, Friday. But this is worth total and speaking of points in assignment, I have made some updates as well because I think it can be confusing when you read your grades. And if you remember, the big project is 50% overall, but 10% is participation and 10% is also presentation at the end. So there's 35% that goes towards the big project, but it's divided up in 4 phases for 875 each. But the heuristic was 4% of 875, and the competitive is 4.75. So it's a little bit more. Now you have a little bit of a better understanding or evaluation of an assignment. So I have increased competitive to 4.75. But once we're done with competition analysis and heuristic, then we are going to be at 875. So we're going to have 2 times 875 of the total mark when it comes to the final project so far. And then we'll do something very similar for defined, and the same thing with at the end as well. So I've put percentages so that you understand what it means in relation to your grades. And if you guys have any question about the grades, what it all means, I'm happy to also help and answer that too. So, and then there's another portion of this week's lab that you do in teams, or if you want to do in teams, or if you want to do individually, that's okay too. Please take some time to read it, and then tomorrow we will spend time on roots, and we can also spend time on the topic lab as well. It'll be up to you as well. So then let's go to our values, and are there any questions? And please read the for this week. I think it'll make a lot more sense when you have a chance to look at it. But are there any questions about anything that I have just mentioned? Okay, so please go through the document, and if you do, then tomorrow we have an opportunity to talk some more as well as a class. So thank you for the project plan, the project info, and thank you for heuristic. I was really happy to see the quality and the effort that you've put in. And it will help the project, and it will help all of us in the end. And I really appreciate everybody being very transparent when it came to where you were at with the project and the challenges. And if you notice, I was interested in what you may have done or not done, and I prefer honesty. And also how people are being proactive. So how proactive are we in the project plan? That means if we don't know where to go, do we ask for help, and where do we go to get the help? Very, very important. And then also looking at solutions. How do we solve for some of the challenges that we have? I think it's very important in where we are as students, and knowing that we're far. You're year 3, you're 4 student, and then you'll be on the market. So very important. So this is how it was a big piece of the evaluation, so that my goal was to also make sure that everybody understand where we are, which I think we are in a better place now. We have more clarity around the project, and thank you for the leads for helping the teams as well. So, but I'll be happy to discuss in more details if anybody has questions. For culture, so last week we talked about some dimensions when it comes to culture, and we've said, I think a lot of time what we're going to see are symptoms, but the company culture will be around some very specific axes, like individual. Do they promote individuality, collective work, equality, or is it hierarchy, tough tender? So, and then I give you a quadrant, 4 specific quadrants that a business will have a tendency to actually gravitate towards. But we know that businesses will navigate around each of those axes, and then also what's really critical is how do they actually cope in the crisis. When they have a crisis and they're in a crisis situation, which normally we're gonna go to what is the more natural for us as individuals. This is what are more about the structure and hierarchy and control. Is it more about innovation, or is it more about the market and the people and the product and the sales and being performing? But it doesn't mean that a business has to make one choice, but they will actually be more inclined to certain of the quadrants that we have on the graphic. In terms of culture type, then I think we've had a chance to talk about, there is the culture or the perception we want to give as a company to the external world, but there's also internally what really happens. And sometimes in the interview, they may actually give you the impression that they're very much about innovation. If you remember Lucy, Lucy was hired to be a director of optimization and innovation, but she met a lot of obstacles. So I think they were not well prepared to innovation. They were not well prepared to criticism. They were not well prepared to look at what else could be improved, instead of being very much concerned about doing good work, obviously, but showing that the work was actually then optimization meant criticism and negative, and the company, I think, overall was not necessarily prepared for it. So although there was a role and it was a new team being created, which Lucy thought, well, they were obviously on board for innovation, when she came to it, the internal culture was not prepared for it. So, and that was a big challenge for her and for her success. Mind you, she was successful. She brought results, but there were a lot of challenges with the people, internal people, and pain, and then she ended up leaving. So the people quadrant was as important, but not very well prepared for the optimization the way that at least Lucy had understood it. So you're going to hear culture of empowerment. Do we empower people, or we have so much structure and there's so much hierarchy that people can't really make decisions? And that you will see how people are feeling that they actually own their decisions, or are they just waiting for people? So you're going to hear culture of celebrations. Do we celebrate little wins, or we just take for granted, or we think that people don't need to celebrate? You'll be amazed. When we are students, we like to be told that we are actually doing well, and we've went above and beyond, and we've done extra work. And I see that in some of the assignment that you have submitted, and I will tell you, I will say, this is going above and beyond. It's a good example of going above and beyond and going further than what was asked. And I would say any manager will be really, really happy with that. So you have to make sure you deliver. You have to make sure you follow the instruction. And I would say most of you have really followed the instruction, but some of you have lost points because was asked. For example, it was really important for heuristic evaluation to go through a user scenario. So creating an account, searching, browsing, looking for returns, and I haven't had a chance to do a lot of talking with you about heuristic, but the heuristic by itself means nothing. They have to be put into context. And I'm assuming you've done heuristic, and I think you all have, because I can see the quality you've put in. But it was really important for me to do heuristic evaluation around the very, very important goals, the user goals and the top goals. And then we use a heuristic to actually find challenges and map them out as well. But I would say everybody followed the instruction, but we have some people, I have some students that actually went above and beyond and produced a little bit more, and then I would point it out. As a manager, we always appreciate that. It doesn't necessarily give you more points, but at the end, if you're on a real job, your manager will be happy, and he'll know that you're gonna think outside, and you're gonna step in, and then he can count on you to not just do asked, but to think beyond, and then share that value with the business. Really, really powerful. So when I see these opportunities, then I will tell you, whether it's in class or whether it's through the assignment, because I think it's important to acknowledge, and I think that as a student, then you feel good and you feel even more motivated. So I don't know if we've talked about this. Last week we've looked at Amazon. Amazon have guiding principles that I think are pretty much like values. It does say a lot about the culture and what is important to Amazon. And when you think of culture and you think of value, you really think, what is important? What do we care about as a business? What do we want our people to care about as a business? Now more and more you're going to hear about diversified culture, and we have to diversity is a very, very important topic in everything that we do, not at school, in our work, in people that we have around, and how we are being inclusive. So there are ways to make sure that we don't just say that we care about diversity. And if you remember, culture is not about do, but it's about what you do. So there are things that you have to pay attention. to really show that you're putting in place everything that you can do to be a diversified culture. And here is some examples that businesses will show, will do, will say that I have come across as I was putting together the material that you can also look on your own. And there's also qualities. So there are qualities that we need to have as people so that we are inclusive, we are supporting and helping for diverse culture. As an example, being we're having open mindset, being adaptable as well, embrace different opinions. So in meetings as classmates, we have to be open. We have to encourage people, everybody to participate, everybody to bring their opinions about a process or the team or a subject that we have. We have to be aware of our own beliefs, and that is really the value element, and the centrism as well. So we evaluate someone's behavior by the standard of your own behavior, which often we don't even know that is really happening. So there is more about international culture and how do we maintain a culture as well. But there's also how do we change a culture. And that's probably the most difficult element of culture and values. And I'm hoping that I think Sarah from ASB Security is actually in the process of changing and helping with the culture at ASB, and she may be able to talk some more about how she's actually going about changing the culture. But I have shared with you some of the steps of some of the things that you would actually have to think about if you were looking at how do we change a culture. And there's some steps and things, and it's a commitment. It's kind of the business will do, and it's start from the top management, and everybody needs to participate. But the first thing is knowing or being aware that there's a need for a change, and then also reinforcing behavior, the good behavior. But we all know people will have a tendency to go to old behavior, especially in crisis, especially when they feel distressed, especially when they feel worried, anxious. And that's probably the most difficult part is how do we undo and how do we train people now that this old behavior is no longer acceptable and it has to be changed. So I think I have shared with you last week, Uber had a very toxic culture. They actually went to hire a new CEO of the business who was the original founder. So, and that is probably sometime where it starts. And then new people are being hired, and the hiring is very important. And Sarah, who's in HR, she's probably going to help us. Have they changed something about their hiring criteria, how they hire people? Now, one question you may as a business have a certain culture, and as part of an NDA, and also as part of who we are, then how do we keep a culture for what we believe is the culture that we want, but how do we also bring diversity, and how do we avoid of being very homogeneous, and so that we're still very heterogeneous on how we are. So there are multiple ways of doing this, and there's not just one recipe, but diversity can be accomplished and achieved with having a culture that encourages diversity and bring diversity within the old culture. It does not mean that when you choose a culture, this is everybody has to fit all criteria. But I think it's overall, what do we want as a business to be known, and not just known, but how do we want to operate as a business? But knowing that there will be sometimes exceptions, but you still have a culture, you establish a culture so that people understand what is important and what the focus needs to be as individual, and how to make decisions collectively. But we can still have uniqueness as people within a culture. It does not mean that everybody has to fit the same, and everybody has to look the same, and everybody has to behave the same. But overall, we agree on the core principle of who we are as a business and what is important to our business. And obviously it affects everything. It affects us, it affects your processes, it affects how you're going to treat people, it affects if you show on time or if you're late for a meeting. It will affect if you look at you prepare or you only prepare at a meeting. So, and that will really come from what the business accepts and does not accept as behavior. But it's really about behavior. So now we're going to move on to values. But before we talk about values, are there any questions about cultures specifically? So take some time to go through the readings and the slides, and then start thinking about what would you like to even discover or explore to culture. And then Sarah's coming with us on the first Tuesday of the first, I think it's March 2nd. So the first week of March, Sarah is our guest on the Tuesday morning like this. She'll be coming in and she'll introduce ASP. And then we all know that we have to do the organizational analysis. And there's a brief in the assignment that talks in more detail about the ASP business. And initially I said it was a group exercise, but you can also choose to do it individually if you want. I know it's sometimes hard to be always in groups, and we have a big project in a group, so I thought you would appreciate to have maybe the option to do individual. And that's a piece of feedback I got for some of you, and that's how I've adapted to the feedback, and it's an easy thing that I believe that can be done, and hopefully it will help you as well in your learning. So when culture and values are very, very tightly tied together, and it's hard to dissociate them sometimes, but there are multiple values that are guiding who we are as individuals, how we make decisions daily that we don't even think about. And if you remember, I shared with you at the beginning of the class from last week, I did the exercise of values, and they really guided me in a lot of things that I have done without really knowing or even remembering that I had done the exercise. So it shows how powerful values are. And they're things that we've learned. We've learned values. We learn values from our school. We learn values from our parents. We learn values from our family. And they are very powerful. And I don't know that we often change the values and what is really, really important to us. But perhaps when you go through do you think these are new values, or these are values that you've always been using and following as a person in what you have done as a student, or as a friend, as a lover, as a colleague, as a sister, as a brother? Think about if this is a new thing, or do you think that this is something that you probably remember as much as what you can remember, that has really, really followed you as what was important and what you care. There's no one size fits all approach. Everybody's different, so there's not one value better than the other value. And the risk sometimes is to assess people and make judgments about people based on what they value. I think we have to be very careful, because as we've said, it's something that we've learned through our as kids, and the way that we were raised, and in the environments that we were in. So we all come from very different places, and what you see of me is little in comparison to everything that has happened to all of us in our lives. So it does definitely give us stats of what is important to someone. May be more important than a relationship, or relationship may be more important than doing good at school. Health, being healthy may be actually more important than having an A in my class, but I'm happy if I have a B because I maintain balance. So and does that make you be better? No, absolutely not. At the end of the day, is what will make you happy as a person. And then if respect, integrity are values and you follow them, then it's who you are. So there's no of better or being worse. It's who we are as people. So it says something about us, about me, about you, and I would say it's also a representation of what we really care about in life. So is it ambition? Is it accomplishment? And you may hear the term instrumental value or terminal value. So I think it's the means or the end. So you will define accomplishment with success, and maybe you want to be successful, but you need to have discipline and maybe accomplishment. They don't get too caught up between instrumental and terminal. Is if accomplishment is important, if success, then you agree that it's something that you will be paying attention into your decisions. Taught and learned. So we learn. It's not genetic. They're not genetically carried. They don't carry over through genetics. So that means you can undo. And your child or your kids, if you have kids, may actually have a completely different set of values if that's what they choose to. It has nothing to do with their genetic, but you can definitely influence those values in the way you're going to raise them. So these are values that I took from one of the paper that I shared with you. I don't know how many there are, but there's many. And then the next slide will actually help you to actually go down from 20, top 20, top 10, top 5 to top 3. So that is a piece that in your journal that you will have to do as well. And but it's a really good exercise, and perhaps for some of you it'll be an easy exercise, for some of you it'll be harder, because really we want to be as inclusive of all the values, and picking top 5 doesn't mean that the rest of the values are not important, but the top 5 or the top 3 may actually really be the ones that every day that stick around you, that have been in everything that you have done, and they will probably going to stay there for the rest of your life, unless something maybe dramatic happen in your life. And I think some life events will sometimes have us to rethink about what is important, what do we really value, but some life events will actually not change some of our values. So family, freedom, security, loyalty. It's really difficult to try to pick top 10 and then pick 20 or 10 and 5 and 2. But it's not impossible. But I really encourage you to go through the exercise, and then how do you actually look for picking a value? So there are questions you can ask yourself, and I have the link to the articles that really specifically talks about picking your core values, and it will help you to 3 and 2. Who do you admire? So if you think about who do you admire, is there someone out there that is someone that you would love to be, or you're really inspired by in life? It can be at school, it can be your family, it can be a relative. So that is, and then you may want to ask yourself, what is so unique about that person? What do you like this person? Why do you like this person so much? What has this person done to you? And then you can asking yourself questions. So you're in UX, research, you've done research. That thing is, what is the most important in your life? What is really important to your life? So you're all in school, so you want to be successful, you want to learn, you want to discover why these things important. For someone, it may just be because you want to you have this intention of living in Toronto downtown and being in a big condo or big house, and it's expensive, and you believe that you need to have a good career to be able to afford it. For someone else, it may just be to have a house, a happy family, and have kids by the lake, or someone else maybe to be able to travel, work and travel and do. So you make the list of what is important, and then what inspires you to take action as well. So why do we all get up in the morning and then either teach or come to class to learn? Why do we stay healthy? Why do we eat well? Or why do we do certain things? So often it will be attached to a specific goal or a specific value. When do you feel that you're most like yourself? We are different. We're different as a teacher. We're different as friends. We're different as lover. So, but when do we feel that we feel the best? We feel that we're at our best. When also do we feel that we're really not at our best? And how do we feel? Let's say, if I don't feel that I'm very well prepared for a class, and for X reasons, then I feel terrible. I may feel very terrible. Why am I feel terrible? Well, the fear of failure, the fear of being judged, right? Obviously, as not a good teacher. And then why is that important? It's because then I'm not giving you what you expect as a teacher, and you've invested in your learning, and you want to learn from the best from the teacher and be successful when you come to the workplace. So all of this is connected, right? It makes you either feel terrible as a professor if you really care about your role, the role that you play, and then at the end of the day, then you go to bed and you don't feel as accomplished. So you can all connect to accomplishment or impact. And then what does it bring to you as well? So what does success bring to you? What does good relationship bring to you as well? Now, in this article, they then move on to, when you ask yourself those questions, how do you articulate your ideal vision? So what will be your self-image? How do you want to see yourself? If you look yourself in the mirror, what do you want to see when you look at yourself in the mirror? Now, tomorrow, in 5 years, in 10 years, where do you want that mirror to be as well? Is it in front of a window that oversees the ocean or high rises? So it's all things that will help you dream about what is really important. How will people around you view you? What will be some of your tangibles? What do you think will be some assets? So I talk about mirror by the window. So that is maybe a sign being by the ocean. If you remember me, I wanted to be able to work from anywhere. And I love oceans. I love salt water. I love warm. I like the sun. I like catamaran. So I liked this. This is where I was gravitating. And I would say 30 years ago, I had the same home feel or look like. What will your health? What will relationship? And then you start linking your answer to some top values, because it will be hard to go from 200 to 10 to 3. And then defining your core values. So what do they mean? What do they say about your expectation for yourself in good and bad times? So if you say your relationship is a core value, when you feel bad, do you actually even call your friends, or do you stay alone? Because calling your friends then show that you're weak. And why is that a bad thing or a good thing? Those values were permanent in practice. So let's say that you don't have those values, but you're aspiring to those values, which you can also do in your exercise. Then what's stopping you? Why is there a gap? Should there be a gap? And then how can you go to a value that maybe you feel that you're not necessarily practicing? There could also be some cultural elements here. Maybe in certain culture, that value is maybe a sign of something positive and negative, or vice versa, right? Then I think you will start getting a sense of what is common to all of these answers or questions you will find. There will be things that are surfacing, and then think of this almost as a research. When you do qualitative research, and we do like we've done heuristic evaluation, if you're going through heuristic evaluation that everybody has done, you're going to start highlighting or making notes like I did. And I actually did provide a summary of all the heuristic evaluation that I kind of like trying to step above and look at what are the big items. And then one of them is account profiling. You will end up doing the same thing with your values. You're going to start highlighting and see what are the common patterns and bucket them, put them in buckets or create boxes. And then that will start helping you really thinking about your future. The future you should really be your current you, because it's who you are. But maybe you'll see that there are some gaps as well. And then the articles help you to try to put it all in one page. So top commitments, value proposition. What will be your top commitments or your top value proposition to yourself? Your next generation job. So these are, again, questions you can think about. What will be my first, my end goal, or what it will look like? Place, time, culture, role, the people, the size, the location. So now you have more to think about, because we've been talking about business types, business structure, business types, what certain business structure will give you, what the culture will be, what it will feel like, the environment, the size as well. So you're starting to have a lot more elements when you think of a businesses and all the things that actually can go good to things that can go wrong. What will you know? What will you be known for? Or what will you be known, I should say, known for as? What will people, when people say Sarah, who is Sarah? When people say Marcel, who is Marcel? When people will say Allison, what is that image? you're in design, you're in UX, you love personas, you can almost think about your personas and put your value. And then what will you do on a voluntary basis as well? So if volunteering is one of your core values or priorities, if you say accomplishment, what will accomplishment look like and success be like as well? So I really highly encourage you to go through the exercise, and those that I have provided will do just that. But before I do this, are there questions about values, or about values, specifically about values, or the process of defining the values? Okay. So there are some tests that you can do. I really, really encourage each one of you, and I think I made it part of the journal of going, definitely the personality stat, but I think everybody should, or I will make the journal there's a requirement in the journal that I want you to come to your top 5 or top 3 values. And to be honest, I'm not going to be paying attention to the values because that's really none of my business. But I will want to see that you've gone through a sense of exercise, and then that and then you talk about the experience of going through the process. That will be important, and then, but you don't even have to share the values, because I think the values are very personal. It's people will know you. They will see what they see is based on your values. So they are seeing the values through your behavior and what you do every day. Class exercise. So it's 117. We've done the Netflix, Google, Zappos, Twitter. We've looked at what do they have in common last week. And what was interesting is, in terms of culture, everybody had different things, different signals that we were picking up from those businesses. Some of them have dogs. You can bring your dogs. A business of innovation, trying, a business of using their own product, a business of caring about people and employees, a culture of getting feedback, being open to feedback, and everybody was picking on different elements, and that really comes down to your values and what's important to you, what you care about. I think more and more businesses have done very, very good at being very flexible, even in terms of their benefits and perks, that you can almost pick what you want as a perk, and a perk that is relevant to you as a business. And I would say that businesses have to be so competitive, because there are a lot of business out there hiring for work from home. Work from home was not necessarily supported by a lot of businesses. So work from home, wear jeans, wear a hat, come as you wish, and be objective based. So they don't care if you come at 9 a.m. They don't care if you come at 9:30. But as long as you deliver, and you're consistent and you go above and beyond, your boss will be happy. Some businesses, they are okay. But other businesses, they're comfortable with the unknown. They're comfortable with no structure, and they have a lot of structure. They have a lot of hierarchy. But that is probably because they don't. So this is going back to the axis. But we've picked up on Netflix and Google and Zappos and Twitter. But there are things that I think they pretty much have in common. So one other exercise that I was thinking that you could maybe do is, you're a leader of a UX department and you have to pick the top 10, 5 or 3 values for your department. Or there's some food for thought questions as well that I have listed. So we've done the Zappos and we've done the Google. You're the leader. So one class exercise that we could do for the next 10 minutes is in groups. Would be to talk about, if you're the leader of a UX department, you have to pick top 10, 5, 3 values. You can go back to the list of value. I like for you to think, decide on the company type, structure, or culture. I think it would be hard to do for today. But what would be some of the values that you would like for your department? And what was your main reference points? Like, why do we pick those values? I think that's probably an easy one. And what we could do is, and you PowerPoint with all the values that are listed, and it's on slide 32. We have all the values. So I would really like, I'm gonna put everybody in breakouts, but how much time do we have? We have maybe even just 5 minutes. That's very short. Okay, so actually we're gonna do it together. So let's pretend that we want to create a UX team. So we are in charge of putting together a UX department. All of us are leaders, and we have to come up with some values for our department, and we have to pick 5 values. Actually, we're going to go down to 3 values. So perhaps before we do this, or what we can do is everybody can highlight some of the values that they think that they would like to have for the department. So you don't have to say who is, but if you all have the slide up, which I think everybody has the slide up, you can use the pen on the blackboard and start highlighting. Absolutely. Start picking some of your top 5. So let's pick top 5 values. So these would be values that we would want for our teams. For our team member, these are values that we would probably put into our mission. We are UX because we want to deliver the best customer experiences. What do we value? What do we care about? Then we would probably have 3, 4, or 5 listed. The reason why we need a short number is because it's easier to remember. If we have a long list, then it's hard. But you can see how we've already started graduating towards some set of values that we all individually started by selecting. So obviously we're influenced by seeing what has been selected. If we would do it individually, then we would probably have a heterogeneous list than being very homogeneous. But it's very interesting to see what has been selected for teams. So we have creativity. I think, yes, we all have to be very creative. Respect. I think respect is something that has been circled also. Diversity, integrity, openness, teamwork. Teamwork has been selected. Nowadays, UX does not succeed on its own. No one has one answer. It's become so complex. Look at roots, the complexity of roots, the complexity of technology and the platforms. There's just so much. No one has all the answer. And this is why in school you learn a framework. And this is what I teach in all classes. I teach frameworks, a way of thinking, so that you can take that in any places, in any businesses. Communication, really, really important. Okay, cooperation, clarity, encouragement. So we had diversity, we had kindness, compassion, leadership, professionalism as well. Okay, great. So now what we should do is let's pick, I don't know how we're going to do this, but let's see if we can pick 1 or 2, and maybe let's all use the square. Let's use the rectangle or the square, and then we can maybe use the square and see maybe the top 3 values that we would think that we would want. So I would say, okay, so we want some squares. Okay, respect. We have 2, respect, diversity. I think we have a few square for cooperation, communications as well, teamwork. See, that's where it gets really difficult, right? We feel like we eliminating and we're giving up, but we're not giving up on any of the other ones. But being respectful, integrity, teamwork, communication. Yes, I think that communication is really, really strong too in teamworks. So let's say that we were forced to pick 3 and communication has to not be included because we feel that let's say corporation, respect are more important. I think we can still acknowledge communication, but we have to make sure we have processes that will encourage and facilitate communication. So there are things that we can do, but we would say integrity, respect. I think we have some winners. Respect is really, really strong in this class, respectful. And I think with respect comes a lot of integrity as well. I think we have to have integrity and respect. Communication is a big one too. And we have teamwork, wanting to work together, collaboratively together. But yes, communication is always a big challenge in many places. So you see, I think it was relatively simple as a team. But I would say one of the questions was, what was our anchor? How did we choose these values? Anybody wants to share why these values? How did you go about picking those values? Anybody wants to share what was? I would say most likely it's based on what your own values, right? Sarah said based on values, but I also thought about ones that were the most altruistic. Yes, absolutely. And I'm hoping those values are understood by people. And if not, then maybe there's training, maybe there's education. Maybe I would say if you were the leader of a UX team, even if you're not a leader, if you're not in charge of the team, do you think that this is an exercise that you could do, that you could lead, you could take the lead on? Does it have to come from your boss? The answer is no. Anybody can do this. Anybody. It's about being a leader. It's being proactive. This we could do for this class. The Humber College has values and things by which they believe in, and they expect people to also follow. But anybody could lead that conversation in a team. Anybody at any moment. If you feel that perhaps values change too. If you feel that there's a need to do this exercise, you do it as a team. Then the team has to also define what is respect. Everybody's definition may be different, right? So and vice versa. So it's important to understand what is integrity and what is behavior. If you remember, it's not just about saying, it's also behaving. And I would say the successful team, they would go as far as saying a list of behavior. When we say creativity, what does creativity look like? Respect, what does respect look like? And communication and teamwork as well. What does it look like? So that we all can be looking at the same thing and say, are we following our values? And how? Well, are we behaving according to our values? So that would be what you would probably do and you could do. And if you were on my team and anybody takes the lead and do this, wow, like then I feel that the team feels that they own the teams and the success and motivation and the team itself, that it's not just the boss, it's not just my job, or it's not just one person's job, it's everybody. We all bring this little value as well. So that was value. And we can talk some more about values tomorrow, but we will keep probably tomorrow more about roots. So it's 1:29. I've took 5 minutes more of your time. I thank you for coming to today's sessions. If there is any questions or any things you want to discuss, I can spend a bit of time here. I'm happy to provide any support or questions that anybody can have in class. And then tomorrow we're gonna have another Tuesday afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow. This is fun. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this. Enjoy the rest of your day too as well.